back to Exponential Finance, the podcast covering finance, technology and innovation, from our home in Japan and beyond. We wish you a very happy year 2021. Please stay healthy and in good spirits. For those in FinTech, Revolut does not need an introduction. Founded in 2015 in London, it had initially focused on the European market, and then successively established a presence in the US, Singapore, Australia, and Japan, where it officially launched in 2019. Mami Kato is the head of public relations and communications at Revolut Japan, and the spokesperson for the business. Mami has over 15 years of experience as a corporate and financial communications professional. She worked at Japan's largest PR firm and at a European strategic communications advisory company, where she mainly engaged in long-term corporate communications for the Fortune's most admired companies in the B2C and B2B space. And now, please welcome Mami Kato from Revolut Japan.
Good morning, Mami. How are you?
Good morning. Thank you for having me. I'm good.
Very good. It's been a very interesting year for Revolut in Japan and globally, of course. Lots of news coming out from all the different countries you are present in. Now, Japan, it's been a long process to actually get the license, and you launched in autumn. Can you talk a bit about what you launched, how you launched it, how Revolut is positioned in Japan, similarly or different from the other countries? What is the offering?
As you mentioned, we launched in the autumn, so 2 months ago, with more simple features. At the time, we suggested, we call it 7 money habits. Revolut suggests 7 money habits for Japanese audience or people living in Japan. As you know, Revolut was first started back in 2015 as travel card, offering very competitive features on FX and currency exchange and international remittance. So we, of course, here in Japan, we offer that features. We also have a feature called virtual card. So you don't need to actually own a physical card. Once you onboard it and pass all the KYC requirement, KYC is basically ID verification process. The customer has an access to virtual card. People can use it for e-commerce, shopping, etc. Also, we do have peer-to-peer features. If we compare to global usage, let's say average way of using Revolut card, I think one of the characteristics for Japan is many users here in Japan, we use Revolut card as a card payment versus not many countries are using that high level of card payments. Some markets are more focusing on peer-to-peer, or some market has more ratio for FX or international remittance. In the initial launch stage, we push FX because that was more original strengths. Having said that, as we grow, there are more and more people using as a daily card. For example, the grocery shopping or convenience stores. It's more in-store daily shopping usage. And that's something we are positively surprised. Now we're on the step 2 to understand more deeper about our current customer base so that we can just reflect our strategy. And although we're a B2C at Revolut, there are so many things that we do kind of C2B. Customer tell us, so we should learn from that and then reflect that value into our next product development. But in order to do so, we need to be very fast-paced and real-time and data-driven. But that's actually exactly what we are strong at. Not only the user data or behavior data, but also every single internal department has their own real-time data that can be easily tracked. So this is one of the culture that Revolut has.
More usage of the card for payments is actually good from an economics perspective for Revolut, because then you get the interconnect fees, and that's much more profitable rather than a P2P payment. That's a very promising commercial launch, I would say.
Exactly. At Revolut, in terms of revenue stream, we have 2 pillars. One is subscription fees. And currently in Japan, we have standard membership, which is free. The second one is premium, and in Japanese yen, it's 980 yen per month. If you purchase upfront for annual, it's like 9,800 yen per year. The third one is called metal membership, which is in Japanese yen, slightly less than 2,000 yen. Subscription fee is one pillar, and the second pillar is actually just like you said, small fees from card usage, the Visa card usage. These are the two pillars from economic perspective or business perspective that we want to assess and develop strategy for our own profitability.
Hopefully next year the Japanese and everybody else will start traveling again, so those features will become relevant again. It's clearly not the year for that necessarily. And I think globally you also just recently launched a lower premium tier for £3 or so, which just sits between your standard and the premium. I forgot what it's called.
Yes, exactly. In Europe, they launched what is called Revolut Plus. In terms of subscription, it's positioned between standard and premium. It will also give you some additional benefit for insurance, device protection, theft protection, etc. I think it's a matter of lifestyle choice, what kind of lifestyle you're having or you want to have, and what kind of guarantee you want to access, etc. For 2021, there are many things that we're thinking. For example, one of the things is Metal, the highest membership plan. Even before launch, we also had 6 months, 7 months period of beta phase. And during this phase, we often did some online community events, try to understand our customer needs and etc. And one of the feedback we had is actually, when can we have Metal card in Japan? Especially among early adopters, there are strong wish and demands seeking for Metal launch. So that's something we want to accommodate early next year. And another one is the feature called Junior. Revolut user can open an account dedicated for their kids. And also they can issue a dedicated junior card, which has very dedicated design for kids. One of the beauty of this feature is parents can teach money skills to kids in a very realistic and very easy way. Of course, giving allowance like 1,000 yen per month, but also it gives you additional feature like you can assign a task saying, okay, do your homework or clean your room. And you can also attach price tag for that. So by doing this, it's more like a communication among parents and kids. At the age of 7, you can already start teaching these things and testing with your kid. I think it's a very cool feature. We also want to launch it in Japan early next year.
The Revolut app in Japan is bilingual, English and Japanese?
In Japan, it's English and Japanese, but actually globally, one of the characteristics is we offer 27 language by default. If the device language setting is, for example, set as French, and then the person is using Revolut services from UK or France, sometimes they also able to get their preferred language. But default here in Japan is English and Japanese.
So that's a win already. That's fantastic. And so if I go for the Metal card and I sign up, how long does it take for me to have the card in my hand?
The onboarding and access to virtual card to be able to make purchase online is much quicker. So I would say it's usually a couple of hours. But getting the physical card, usually 7 business days.
What I find interesting, having moved between New York and Tokyo a few times, credit cards in the US, many have a fee. It's a small fee, especially if you get air miles on the cards, like a United Airlines card or American Airlines card. Maybe you pay $50 or so, but when you sign up, then you get these humongous bonuses of 50,000 air miles. And in Japan, although it has changed, I think, over the last 5 years a bit, but historically, I found the credit card fees, the annual membership fee, quite steep. And literally, clearly, if you go in the Diners Club direction or so, you can pay more than 100,000 yen annual membership fee. So it actually feels like a good market for the Metal card because people are used to paying for their credit card. And if they can get a cool metal shiny one, it's actually a benefit for them. So it can be an attractive offer here in Japan.
Yeah, that's true. In terms of the price range, it's not too expensive. One of the benefits is with Revolut app, everything is real-time notifications. As a customer, if you use your Revolut card, The moment you use Revolut card, the moment either you tap your card or sometimes the shop staff needs to have your card, right? Before the shop staff asks you whether you need receipt or not, you already have it on the phone. Exactly the merchant name and the actual amount. Just real-time notifications and make it transparent is actually one of the benefits that our users are loving.
In notification, especially Japanese are very concerned about cybersecurity and unauthorized use. And so if somebody, for whatever reason, card would be compromised and it's being used somewhere else, you would see that immediately on your
Exactly.
app. And so a very good safety net.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, actually, we're very confident in terms of our security setting. So it's not us controlling security. I mean, of course, there are some backends that we are doing, but we're trying our best to give back control to our customer, meaning based on each customer's behavior or preference or occasions, how you want to use card in your home market and how you want to use your card during your vacation, it's very different. So you might want to disable ATM withdrawal function. As long as you disable that feature, there's no concerns. So there are 7 to 8 features, like a small features that you can always tailor make. So you can freeze and unfreeze card with just one tap. With Revolut, actually, in the end, if you didn't lose your card, then you can just unfreeze it. So it's very flexible, but at the same time, it's very secure.
What I'm personally very excited about with Revolut is that over the last 20 years, if you look at retail, financial services, retail banking, every major global brand has left Japan. And Citibank was the last one, which is now all 7 years ago or so. Having a major foreign fintech brand entering the market here is fantastic because it hasn't really happened that much. On the insurance side, we have, of course, some of the international players still, but really in traditional banking, it's all very domestic. And so having a new entrant and shaking up the market here is, I think, good for the whole ecosystem. Prior to Revolut, you've got experience marketing foreign brands in Japan. So can you talk a bit about what that means, what you specifically take into account when you take a foreign brand and market it to Japanese consumers?
For Revolut, we're committed to the Japanese market. At the same time, we are aware that it's not easy market and it requires to tailor-made to resonate it to our customers based in Japan. And also, of course, we need to comply with all the regulations here. Personally, I also been working here since 2005 in Japan. So if I look back, financial services globally, of course, it's highly regulated market, same in Japan. Having said that, maybe for the last few years, in terms of regulatory environment, Japan as a whole have more willingness to be competitive globally, always discussing about how we can position Tokyo as an Asian financial hub or Asian gateway. We see some positive signal. It's slowly, but it's surely moving. Also, Tokyo Metropolitan Government chose 2 areas. One is FinTech and another one is asset management, right? For Revolut, it's kind of first market among expansion territories for Revolut. So when we say expansion territory, it's basically non-EU market, which is Singapore, Australia, US, and Japan. And among 4 countries, Japan is the only non-English speaking country. That's why I think for Revolut HQ also needs to learn many things, just like we do. It's a very big and bold challenge for us.
How has the reception been so far? So when you look at people who have signed up, do you look at it from a Japanese versus foreigner perspective, or you're just looking at it more by age groups or millennials, etc.?
We do both. In terms of non-Japanese versus Japanese, in the past, especially during beta phase, majority of people are more English speakers, so non-Japanese. But now I think majority of people are Japanese. And in terms of demographic, globally, on average, age bracket-wise, 25 to 34 is the highest group. Compared to global average, in Japan, we have, of course, the 25 to 34 is the highest number 1 group. Having said that, we also have older generation over 40 or 50. It's not that dominated by this millennial. One of the observation or hypothesis for this is because historically speaking, Japan has this mobile wallet since 20 years or so. Even the generation from 40s or 50s, especially male group, there are some active people who are already familiar with the concept of using mobile as a wallet, which is, especially at that time, very advanced. Japan was advanced in that regard. This is the reason why we also have higher ratio of over 40, 50 age group compared to UK or US.
Even when we still had these Galapagos phones, the flip phones, you could use them to go into the subway and you had your SUI car functionality on it. So Japan was really, really early with that.
Exactly. So I think one of the challenges we have is this Galapagos. Not only finance, in many industries, Japan tends to have unique setting, which is not compatible with other global major settings. One example is also contactless. It's very popular in UK. The concept is there's a IC chip and then you can just tap into the device and then just 1 second. This is using, it's called NFC. NFC is a near field communication. They're using type A or B. That's widely adopted. But in Japan, historically speaking, we have NFC-F, which is very different. So that's why what happened here in Japan is if travelers from Europe or US coming to Japan and they want to use contactless, many of the merchants, they don't accept that. But that is also gradually changing thanks to the fact that next year, hopefully, we will have Tokyo Olympic and more inbound tourism. So due to this, for example, McDonald's or a 7-Eleven, so many retail sectors are actually starting to install NFC AD to try to capture demand from non-Japanese inbound travelers.
So NFC-F is Felica then, right?
Felica, exactly.
So I have the same. I've got a Huawei phone and I bought it at the beginning of the year because it was dirt cheap and I don't need to spend $1,000 on an iPhone. One downside it doesn't have the Felica chip. It has the regular NFC as well.
Historically, NFC-F is more designed to accommodate the needs for transportation. And Japan actually, in terms of transportation, it is very advanced. The amount of people who are commuting in a same time frame is actually intense. So in order to be able to speed up the process, as opposed to NFC AD is tailored around the cost perspective for margin. NFC-F is more expensive, but it's faster. So it's targeting different audience and different perspective.
The iPhone for Japan is specific manufacturer line. So it does have the Felica chip. It's also the only iPhone globally that has it. And given that 50% market share here or even greater, Apple can afford to do that. It's a big enough market, but they might be the only ones actually who can afford that given the scale. The other thing about marketing in Japan, and I'm not a marketing expert by any means, but the two things that strike me always is one is cute things sell. So if you have a Hello Kitty edition of your product or some other cute cartoon characters, always gets traction. We're joking sometimes with some fund management colleague, rather than call it the advanced technology fund, call it the Hello Kitty fund, and it would sell much better. The other aspect seem to be limited editions, whether it's chocolate or sake, whatever, it's the autumn edition and it's only available for 2 or 3 months and then people buy it. Is that something from you're the marketing guru, so I can ask the right person. Would you say that these are two things that just resonate with the Japanese consumer and others such ways that you would adopt the Revolut brand that you might not do anywhere else in the world?
As we grow, I think the customers, currently that's something we're learning. So we want to validate our hypothesis. We just want to be aware of the local uniqueness and what are the unique wishes and demands only with Japanese customers compared to global European customers or US customers. In general, I agree. There's always like character Hello Kitty or these cute characters. Japan also has like every prefecture has their own character and they have a competition and that attract many media and press-worthy. So as a PR professional, I think it's definitely create press value, news value. Having said that, the question is whether it resonates with our customers here in Japan. And I think at this point, it's more early stage. So I don't think that is going to happen like soon in a very early stage. But when it comes to the second point, limited editions, I mean, of course, Japanese are crazy about that. But also, I think that could resonate well with other markets. I mean, depending on how you marketed it. Because one of the characteristics of our community is it's very engaged community, especially many frequent customers, like very active customers, describe Revolut as Revolut is giving financial tips as if you're a very close friend. And actually, I think that's true. If you look at our email communications, it's a little bit casual. It sounds like your friend is trying to help you. At the same time, we also offer online community events, but it's not financial seminar or something, but we invite customers to our office and serve some beers and pizza. And then we have a couple of speakers, but like, for example, product owners, like who is actually the leading the product rollout. And then just talk about, what's coming up and what we're thinking. And also collect feedbacks from our users. And actually, there are some features originally designed based on customers' idea or feedback. This limited editions concept might work well with both Japanese and global audience.
Round it out with a personal question and career advice for the younger generation. On your LinkedIn profile, you have a sign that says never settle. And my reaction to that was, this is like Jeff Bezos. There's never day two. It's always day one, always new. But also Revolut in the press has a bit of a reputation as a hard-charging, hard-working team, at the very least the core founders group. So it seems to be a good fit. Of course, we're in an environment, I'm dealing a lot also with young people who are leaving university and looking for internships. And it's a hard time for this. And it often feels like trying harder always doesn't necessarily work. But as a basis for professional success, you need to put the effort in. And never settle symbolizes that for me as well. You need to do your part, you need to work hard, you need to position yourself in the right way, and then opportunities will come up, and some of them you'll take, some of them you don't. That was my interpretation when I read your sign there. But what would you recommend as career advice to the generation that's leaving university now and is in an environment that's obviously challenging? There's so much new things happening, maybe too many opportunities as well. How do you build a good career when you leave university now?
Never settle is actually one of our corporate slogans. Of course, that resonates with me as well. In terms of advice, one thing important for everyone, and especially for myself also, I understand like during university, people learn a lot academically, and maybe you already have some internship experience. But as you grow, the most challenging and important thing is unlearn the theory or unlearn from the past experience is something not easy, but always important. When I choose next step, I always, ask myself, each business has their own logic, industry logic, or business culture, or corporate culture, or certain behaviors. I am always careful in terms of which behaviors I want to take, I want to adopt, and which behaviors actually I don't want to. So I want to unlearn. And also, if you think about your next generation, everyone has next generation. So if you think that there are many behaviors that you don't want to pass on to next generation, I think that's a signal for you to think about what you can do, which behaviors are important, and which behaviors are something you just don't want to adopt. Of course, there are always limitations, but at the same time, you always have choices if you move and take action. Once you take action, there will be always new opportunities. So these are the things. Unlearn is something maybe not right after the graduation, but I think you need to constantly revisit yourself. What was the original expectation? If you look back or if you reassess the status quo, is it all good or is it something you want to change? If so, why? And these are, I think, for anyone, just to make sure you're walking healthy paths.
Yeah, it's a super point on the unlearning, because very often we're just focused on acquiring new things and new knowledge, but the addition by subtraction is actually very important for that as well. And it's a super highlight. It's a very good point. So appreciate that. Thank you. Super. Thank you very much. That was great conversation. Time flies when you're having fun, and wish you all the best for the new year. Have a good Oshogatsu and a wonderful 2021.
You too. Thank you so much.